Let's get a quick take on Tom Sullivan, father of an Aurora theater shooting victim, vying to become the Democratic nominee for state senate in the 27th district. Sullivan would face Republican Jack Tate, who was selected to that seat to replace David Ballmer. Patty Calhoun from Westward, do we think we have somebody here who could follow in the footsteps of somebody like Rhonda Fields?
Well, he's certainly got a compelling backstory, and the incumbent has been there long enough to maybe get a cup of coffee, so he doesn't have a strong base. A lot of it's going to depend on everything else we see in this coming election season, whether a Democrat in that district is going to have a good shot at it or not.
David Copeland from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Right now, at least, we're seeing a pretty obvious one major issue from Tom Sullivan, but with Jack Tate, you have somebody who wasn't elected to that seat. Do you think it's going to be a pretty big race?
Sure, and it's going to be a big money race because on the gun ban side, you're going to have Michael Bloomberg, who is vastly richer than Donald Trump. I mean, Bloomberg's one of the 15th richest men in the world. I mean, if Bloomberg wanted, he could just give everybody in the district $1,000 to vote for his preferred candidate, and he wouldn't even notice the difference in his bottom line. It'd be like when you and I lose 50 cents on the couch. Sullivan's problem is, because he's been a political activist for a while, and when he was campaigning for other candidates, he was motivated, understandably and very sincerely and ardently, on the anti-gun issue, but as he explained, he couldn't campaign on that because that wasn't of interest, particularly his point of view, to the voters in his district. So we'll see, but I think he's a committed guy, and that's what Colorado's citizen legislature is partly about, is citizens running because they have something they care about and they want to make a difference. And in this 21st century environment, having a billionaire who agrees with you on that difference always helps.
It does indeed help. Speaking of billionaires, political analyst Eric Sonderman is joining us as well. Eric, what kind of influence does Sullivan's connection to the Aurora movie theater shooting have on the community and his potential electorate?
Well, first of all, a word of advice to our viewers: you will never go wrong taking Michael Bloomberg in CIO bingo. It is usually a winner for you. I think his persona, the fact that he is the father of a Aurora shooting victim, it gives him a claim to fame. It gives him a leg to stand on, shall we say. It separates him from the run-of-the-mill candidates that occupy many of these legislative districts. Candidates have different motivations for running, and the fact that you lost a son in an incident of horrific gun violence is as good a motivation as any. I want to go real quickly in a different direction with this question, Dominic. There's a coming issue, I think, which is how an increasing number of people are getting to the Colorado legislature, and it's through this thing of vacancy committees. Increasingly, you see legislators resigning before the end of their term. You now have this area of Arapahoe County that has a Colorado State Senator and a Colorado State Representative. Neither one has been voted on. Neither one has been elected to anything. They've both taken office by vacancy committee. David Ballmer resigns, so Jack Tate takes the Senate seat. This guy Sullivan is now going to run against Tate. So Tate leaves the Colorado House where he had been serving, and a guy named Cole Wist is appointed by a small group of people on some obscure vacancy committee to take that role. There's a story to be written here about the use and even in some cases abuse of vacancy committees to fill our legislature.
Rounding out the panel today, Ben Gelt, political consultant. Arapahoe County is usually somewhat of a swing county in Colorado. How does it go in this race?
I haven't looked at the data specifically for this district, but my sources tell me that it does lean Republican, that a generic Democrat has a very difficult time against a Republican. I think in the case of Tom Sullivan, you have a more compelling than average candidate who has a highly compelling backstory that's internationally recognized and known. And as Eric pointed out, you have a sitting senator who was appointed and elected prior to the House from a much smaller base. So I think in this instance, you're going to see a really competitive race where you're going to see, yes, how the gun issue plays out, and also how the message of being a pragmatic citizen representative in the legislature carries over someone who's appointed and has a much more political background and sort of trajectory.